Welcome back, everybody. Today we have a super fun tutorial for you. We're going to be taking these shapes and morphing them from one to the other using keyframes. This is a full tutorial, so buckle in. I'm Julio, your motion sidekick. Now let's get started. You know the drill. Click that new composition button. Let's make this 1920 by 1080. Over here in our project panel, let's go ahead and double click that or hit Command I to import. Find your reference graphic. Mine's located here. Let's go ahead and drag that into our timeline. I'm going to enable the title action safe and then slide this over just so I can put my graphic in the middle there. Go ahead and lock that layer and let's hide that title action safe. Over in your toolbar, you want to select your pen tool or hit G on your keyboard. And then we're just going to draw half of this icon because we don't want to do things twice. So we're just going to draw half of it and just kind of follow that outline. Now, if you don't know how to use the pen tool, it's really simple. Let me go back and show you here. If you click and let go, you're going to draw a point. If you hold down Shift and click, you're going to draw a point straight down from that last point. Now, if you click and drag your mouse, that's going to give you these handles. And according to these handles, the longer they are, the more smoothed out they're going to be from that point. The farther they'll go before they start to decay back to that other point, right? So I don't know if that makes sense for you, but just go ahead and drag them out like so. And then we're going to click the next point and we're going to drag out the handles like so. And then just kind of follow along with that shape. And the last shape, we want to do this. Now you'll notice that these handles are all wonky. This line is all wonky. If you hold down Option, that'll change your mouse cursor from the pen to this. Now if you hover over that point, it's going to change it to this. Go ahead and click and drag, and now you can change that point without affecting the other side of the handle, the Bezier handle, that's what they're called. And then if you hold down Shift, that's going to go straight down or straight across or at a 45. So we want to go straight down because we want this to be the halfway point. That way when we mirror it, we don't have any weird holes in the middle here. So go ahead and hit Option and click on your stroke. That's going to change through the strokes. That's going to cycle through those strokes. We want an empty stroke, but we do want a fill. So just so I can see what's going on, I'm going to make that a gray fill. We're going to be animating this shape from the spade to the diamond, to the club, to the harp, back to the spade, creating a loop animation. Go back to your pen tool. You can either select it from the toolbar or you can hit G on your keyboard. And we're going to draw the base of the spade. So let's go ahead and start with the top part. And then hold down Shift and then click again and let go. That's going to draw a line straight down. And then remember, hold Shift, click again, and that's going to draw a line straight over. And then close it. But before you let go of that mouse button, you want to drag this to create that curve. Now, again, we ran into an issue where it's actually modifying the other side of that point, that vertex. So with your pen tool selected, hit Option, and then click and drag on that handle, that Bezier handle. And then if you hold down Shift, that'll take it straight down. And that's what we want. That's looking awesome. Okay, we have the top part of the spade and we have the bottom part of the spade. Let's go ahead and toggle this down under Contents, Shape, Path. Let's set a keyframe for our beginning path and let's bring that all the way over. Well, actually, let's leave it there. And then go to the bottom of the spade and same thing. We want to hit a keyframe on that path just to signify that that's where we're going to start. Now, that was about half a second in, so let's go about a full second in. And we're going to animate this to be our diamond. Unlock the graphic layer and let's bring that diamond all the way over. Let's line it up so it's in the middle there. Let's lock that so we're not moving it. This secondary shape, I think what we want to do is we just want to get that out of the way. So I'm going to animate this to look like a drop. So it's going to come to a drop and then go off screen. So let's go ahead and do that. So we want to set a middle keyframe. So select that, grab your selection tool or V on your keyboard, or is your selection tool up in the toolbar. Grab that first keyframe or grab that first vertice, bring that down a little bit, bring that second vertice down a little bit, and then grab the top one and bring it down quite a bit. Now, that does not look like a drop. So hit G for your pen tool, or you can select it up here from your toolbar. Hold down the option so it gives you this icon. And then what you're going to do is you're going to drag that out to have handles. So that way this will become a curve instead of just a point. Hit V for your selection tool and then bring that over. Now remember that this is only half of the shape, right? So this is only half that droplet. So that looks, let's go ahead and make something like that. There's half the droplet, and then let's go forward another half a second. Grab that vertice, shift click on that vertice, shift click on that vertice, and then let's just drag it off screen. So you see what's happening here. So that's only half of that shape, right? So now let's go back to the top of the spade. Double click on your shape, grab one of the vertices. This is now going to become our bottom vertice. This is going to become our side vertice. And then you notice that it's not lighting up, and it's because these handles, right? If we wanted to make it go this way along that path, then it throws off that other handle. So we need to break these two handles. And the way we do that is by hitting G on our keyboard, selecting the pen tool, or G on our keyboard will select the pen tool. If it gives you that feather, just hit G again. It'll go back to the pen tool. Hold down Option and click and drag on that bar, and then just go, just drag that handle so it lines up with the size of the diamond, something like that. And then same thing with this top one. Perfect. And then this one here, whoop. This one here, if you hold down Shift, it'll go straight up and down, and that's what we wanted to do. Now, if you zoom in here, you'll notice that this vertice and this vertice are not aligned. So what we want to do is hit Command R for our rulers, or you can go up to View, Show Rulers, Command R, and then click on one of the sides. Hit V on your keyboard for the selection tool. Click on one of the sides and you'll see it brings in this ruler. And if you have snapping on, then you can grab this keyframe and just bring it straight down. And again, hit G for your pen tool, grab this handle, and then just snap it into place. And then snap that into place. And lastly, snap this into place. So that way we make sure that when we mirror this, we're not going to have any weird gaps or weird overlap on this. So go ahead and zoom back out, hit Command R to get rid of those tools. And let's go ahead and leave the guide there for now. Very good. So now you see that we have our animation. Now, that was a lot of work, and I really don't want to duplicate all that work to get the other side of the diamond. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a little tricks. Select the top portion of the spade, hold down Shift, click on the bottom layer, and now copy and paste those layers. Now you're going to see that the animation is already there. So all we have to do is under Scale, unlink the properties, so the X and Y, and then we're going to make this X value -100, and we're going to do that same thing for this value, -100. That's perfect. Okay, now we want to modify, just to keep the two sides straight, let's go ahead and select both these layers, and we're going to change the label just over to yellow, so that way we can tell that that's the right side and this is the left side. So blue is left, right is yellow. Our drop looks great, but that top shape looks a little funky. So let's go ahead and modify it just a little bit. So hit U on your keyboard. This will give you those keyframes. And I think what I want to do is create a in-between keyframe. Double click on your shape here to modify the vertex. And I think what I want to do is I want to follow that drop down. So we're going to put that there and put that there. So that way, when that drops down, it'll release the drop and then get sucked back into the diamond. Now you can see that because we modify these keyframes, those top keyframes, the right side of the diamond is not matching up now. So we want to modify that. Now we could do it manually. We can make those match. That's a lot of work. So instead what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all those keyframes. So now we don't have any animation. But what I want to do is the top portion of the keyframe, under path, I want to hold down Shift and activate that stopwatch. That's going to give me an expressions keyframe. I want to grab this pick whip and I want to drag it down to path on the top. So the top and top. So I want the top to match the animation keyframes that are happening on this path. And then I want to do the same thing for the bottom. So hold down Option, click on the stopwatch. That's going to activate your expressions keyframe. Grab this pick whip and drag it all the way down to the bottom path keyframes. Now you'll see that the animation lines up and we only have to do half the work now. I think that's looking pretty cool. I do want to give this animation a little bit more life. So if you zoom in here, you'll notice that these two keyframes are off a little bit. So I'm just going to fix that. All right. And this in between animation, I think what I want to do is I want to grab this top handle here. Whoa. Select that, select the top one, bring it down just a little bit, just like that. And then we're just going to round this out a little bit like that. So that way you'll see the... And actually, I want to overshoot this. That's an animation term. Overshoot that a little bit, stretch it out, thin it out, right? Because there's only so much. If you think of this like a Play-Doh blob, right? Like it's just like when you pull on one side, it thins out the other side. When you push it in, it like fattens up the other side, right? So you want to take that into consideration and think about like, how is this going to be affected? So let's take a look here. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and select all the keyframes, hit F9 for easy ease, and let's just check it out and see what it looks like. That's looking really good. Let's just modify these last keyframes. So have those selected, go into your graph editor, zoom in a little bit here, go to your speed, make sure your edit speed graph is selected. Let's grab those last keyframes, and I think we want to slow those down just a little bit to something like that. So that way when it hits that last keyframe, it just really settles in like that. And then also, I think I want to slow down this keyframe. So let's go ahead and drag this out, and this is going to make it slower, and then speed it back up. So select this keyframe and we're going to speed this up. And then let's go ahead and hit spacebar to preview that. Yeah, that's looking great. So it almost like it goes to the drop and then it releases the drop and then it all springs back into that diamond shape. Amazing. Let's go forward just a couple of keyframes here. Let's go ahead and set a keyframe for the path. One there, and then on the bottom, hit U just to clean that up a little bit, and then hit this keyframe. And so that way we have a keyframe there. So it's going to hold that shape for a second before it goes into this next animation, which is the club. Go ahead and lock the graphics layer, grab the graphics layer, and let's go ahead and move that to the middle. Now it's your turn to shine, club. Let's go ahead and lock that back up. Now what I'm thinking for this club animation is I want the diamond to stretch all the way out and then spring back in and create this top ball, which is then going to, for lack of a better term, going to poop out these other two balls. Oh boy, I'm saying balls a lot. circles. It's going to poop out these circles much better. Let's select that top shape, double click on it so we can modify these vertices. So first thing is we want to stretch it all the way out. And so when we stretch it, these sides are going to come in like so. And then of course the top and bottom are going to also shrink, and they're going to become smoothed out like so. And you're going to shrink and you're going to become smoothed out like so. All right, so now we have this stretched out, and then we want to go forward a few more frames, and then it's going to spring all the way back to the middle. So let's go ahead and select, double click on the shape, select one of the vertices, bring it back into the middle. It's going to create this weird shape because it has the handles coming out and it's being mirrored. So we want to bring this down a little bit, bring this down a little bit. Basically, I want to create a circle at this point. So just play with these handles, bring them in, bring that in, bring this in. So it snaps back in, and then it's going to move up and create this top circle. So go forward a few frames, and then here we're going to move this up. We're going to move that up. We're going to move this up, and we're going to move this up. I think what I want to do is I want to have, once a circle pops up, the other two circles are going to come down. Now, because I don't want to replicate this shape, I'm going to cheat it a little bit, grab my ellipse tool, make sure none of your layers are selected because otherwise it's a mask. Click and drag, that's going to create a ellipse. If you hold down shift, that'll create a perfect circle. And if you hit command, that's going to draw it out from the middle of where you initially clicked. So let's go ahead and place that there for the top circle. Hit command, open bracket. That's going to trim your layer here to your playhead. So that way when we go back any farther than that, it disappears. But when we go forward, it's there. Copy and paste that layer. Let's select both of these, hit P for position, and let's activate the keyframes. Let's copy and paste one more, and this is going to become the left circle here, or the left sphere. Circle. It's a circle. It's not a sphere. It's not 3D. It's 2D. It's flat, just like the Earth. Go ahead and select that last layer. Hit P for position. You'll see that we also have a keyframe there. You know, I actually want this circle to go up a little bit. Shift, click on all the vertices. That's going to allow you to select all the vertices, and then let's move this up a little bit. Go ahead and select the three circles, bump them up a little bit. And all I'm doing is hitting my up arrow and down arrow. And if you hold down shift, it'll make bigger jumps up or down, left or right. And now I don't know if I moved it from the middle. So let's go ahead and undo left to right. Okay, that's going to be the beginning position for these circles. And then we want them to settle in a few frames forward. So go ahead and that's going to be our right circle. So it's going to go right there. And then hit your arrows on your keyboard just to get them into place. This is going to be the left circle. Again, hit the arrows on your keyboard to get them into place. And then your top circle is going to come down ever so slightly to do that. Now, because we're done with this, let's just leave it there for a second. Let's see if we need it. Oh, we do need it. So that shape now is going to become this weird intersection where there is nothing, this black void, this crevasse, this hole, this, oh man, I don't know what to call it. Keep calling it crack, a hole, and I'm talking about balls. And all right, this weird shape, that is going to fill the gap. There we go. It's going to fill that gap. Let's go ahead and select that. Double click on it to select the vertices. Select the first vertice. drag it all the way down, and I think we want to make this follow the shape. We're going to make it follow that shape a little bit. Okay, we want the shape to fill in that gap. So let's go ahead and select the second vertex here. And let's make sure that's snapped to the middle. And that's weird. It's not snapping to the middle. It's a glitch in the matrix. All right, grab that, bring it all the way down. Let's bring that all the way down to here, and then grab this, bring this down. Oh, grab this vertex, bring that down, and then we're still seeing that shape there, so let's go ahead and make sure that that is entirely hidden like so. And what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to follow the shape, that shape, so it fits into that curve. And you'll see here in a second why we're doing that. See? Now we don't have any weird black void there. Hit F9 for easy ease. Let's go into our graph editor, select this handle and drag it out. So that way it'll go fast and slow into place. Let's go ahead and change this snap just so it's a little snappier. Snappier snap. So with that keyframe selected, we want to speed it up. So something like that. Yeah. So you guys see what I did there? So we want to make sure this handle selected, zoom in a little bit with your plus and minus, and then we want this to go fast. So we want to go towards the keyframe. So now it's going to go fast, and then it's going to settle into place. So we wanted it to settle into place. All right, let's take a look at the other keyframes here. So as far as the animation, like we want this to go fast out to this spot. So let's select that keyframe. We want it to go fast here. So let's take a look. Boink. Just like that. Stretch and snap. Stretch and snap. Perfect. All right, now we got to deal with this shape. And we've already done this shape back at the beginning, if you remember the spade. So I'm thinking, let's just copy and paste this. Let's go ahead and bring it all the way up just so we know what we're dealing with. And this shape is already there. Now, if you hit U to bring up your keyframes, there's a bunch of animation we probably don't want. We probably just want this beginning animation, which is now going to become the end animation. So last time it went out as a drop. Maybe we bring it in as a drop. So how do we do that? Okay, now if you look at drops, they're a ball with a tail. You can't see any hand gestures that I'm doing now, which is probably better that way. Let's go ahead and make this a ball with a tail. So hit G for your pen tool, hit Option to give you this weird handle here, and let's create the ball. And there's our tail. So we don't want this to be all the way to the bottom. We want this keyframe to be somewhere along here. And this handle's way too long, and that's what's making that weird shape there. So if we bring it up towards that vertex, that's going to make it more of a pleasant shape, like so. And remember, this is only half of it. We have to copy and paste and redo that whole thing. But for now, let's just bring in. Oh, this looks good, but drops don't come in like that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an in-between keyframe. I'm going to grab that vertex and bring it all the way down. And then I'm also going to grab this vertex and bring it all the way down here. Because when that water hits this imaginary floor, it's going to spread out to the sides. Now, it's not going to spread out curved like this. It's going to spread out in a straight line. So I have to hit G for my pen tool, grab Option, and then click that over to the side, hold down Shift so it goes straight over. And then let's make that a flat line. And then this is going to bulge over a little bit to the side here like that. And then this is going to come down. I think something like that. Now, it doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, it is an animation. Okay, so I think that looks good there, but it doesn't look good here because it still needs to be a drop all the way till it hits the bottom. So it needs to be a drop, but it's already hitting the floor at this point, so we want to take that and snap it to the floor. So now it's going to go block. So you see how it goes out and then it goes back in. So it hits the floor, spreads out, and then it comes back in, and almost like a wave, it fills back up. All right, and we want this animation to go slow here at the end, so grab that keyframe and go slow. And that looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and duplicate that layer, go back to your main timeline, copy, paste. Now that we have a duplicate, let's label this with a yellow label. Label this with a yellow label. Let's go with a yellow color for that label on the marker label. What was I saying? So if you remember all the way back to the beginning of the show, we got rid of all these keyframes, and then what we're going to do on the path is we're going to hit Option, click on that keyframe. It's going to give us this expression path. We want to grab the pick whip and go down to the path keyframe because we want to copy all these keyframes. Click anywhere to go off of it, and that looks exactly the same. And it looks exactly the same because we haven't changed our scale. So hit S for scale, unlock the dimensions, and then go -100 here, and that'll give you the mirror image. That's looking really good. I feel like the animation is a little bit slow. So let's go ahead and select all those keyframes, go to your last keyframe, hold down Option, and then click and drag. Now, when you hold down Option, clicking and dragging will either shrink or extend your animation. So if you wanted to go faster, you're going to shrink it. If you wanted to go longer, you're going to drag that out. So let's go ahead and go about so. You see that drop is there before. Let's go ahead and select those keyframes or select those layers and scoot them down the timeline a little bit. And once that settles in, that's where that's going to come out and plop and go back in. That looks like a club. Very good. Now on to our last shape. Let's go ahead and unlock the graphics layer. Click and drag, hold down Shift again. Because if you don't hold down Shift, you can do this. But if you hold down Shift, you just go straight across. Let's go ahead and line up that heart in the middle. Now that we have this bottom shape, I think this bottom shape is actually going to become our heart again. And then we're going to get rid of these 3 circles somehow. But let's focus on this bottom part. So let's go ahead and copy and paste that keyframe so that way there's a hold. It doesn't go anywhere. And then we're going to start our animation. So click. Click on this vertice, that's going to become the bottom of the heart. Hold down Shift so it goes straight down. This is going to become our side of the heart, and this is going to become the middle top of the heart. So you see we have these handles here. Hold down Shift so it goes straight down. Grab that handle, and that's going to become our arc on the top. And now we don't have any handles here. So what do? Hit G on your keyboard. This will give you the pen tool. Hold down Option. That'll give you this icon here. And even though you don't have any handles, as soon as you click and drag, that'll create new handles. So you want to do that and do something like that. And then to get a little bit of arch here on the bottom of the heart, we're going to do the same thing. So with your pen tool still selected, hold down Option, click on that bottom vertex. Now this handle here, you want to go straight up and down. So hold down Shift, let go, and then hold down Option to give you this tool back. And now you can go ahead and create a little bit of that arc in that shape. That looks pretty good. Go ahead and go back to your selection tool by hitting V on your keyboard, and then just kind of refine that shape of the heart till your heart's content. Till your heart's content. Get it? See what I did there? Anyways, I'm in love. That looks amazing. So now that looks really good, but now we have these. I didn't say it. You thought I was going to say, but I didn't say it. We have these circles that we need to get rid of. So let's go ahead and hit Option P for position, and let's click these back to this keyframe. If hit J, that'll go to that keyframe, and then hit K for the next keyframe. And I think what we're going to do is drag the bottom two. So these bottom two are going to come all the way up, and you see how they just kind of sink into that shape. We probably want to get rid of this shape. Nope, this shape and this shape. This shape, this shape, and this shape. So hit Option, close bracket. That'll trim your layer to the playhead. Option and bracket. That'll trim it there. Now this top one, I think what I want to do is I want to go up a little bit. So all I'm doing is hitting my Shift up arrow to animate it up. Go to that keyframe. You can hit J and K for the keyframes, and then go all the way back down till it disappears into the heart. Very nice. If you look at the animation, a lot of the animation is going up. In order to add a little secondary animation or a little life into this animation, we want to create some anticipation to that movement. And that anticipation is basically going to be going the opposite way, right? So like if you think of throwing a punch, right? Like you don't just throw the punch forward, like you actually cock your arm back before you go forward, right? So that's the anticipation I'm talking about. So let's go ahead and go to this keyframe here, and then we want to make sure that we're selected on the vertices. So hit Shift and moving the vertices, not the position. We actually want to move the vertices down, right? And because we did that, now this moves. So copy and paste that keyframe just to hold it into place. And then it's going to go down and up, down and up. And we also want to do the same thing with those circles we want to move. So let's go ahead and hit J to move that back a keyframe. Let's hold Shift. Holding down Shift will snap the keyframes that you're moving to the timeline. Go forward with K on your keyboard. Copy and paste those keyframes. So now on those keyframes, because they are the position, we can just go ahead and hit our keyboard all the way down to something like that. Okay, now we have the top one that we didn't bring down, so let's go ahead and bring that one down. And then let's just bring it down enough where we're hiding that weird thing there. Okay, now if you zoom in here, you see that we have something going on with our heart. So let's select that keyframe, hit J to go to the keyframe, select that vertice, and then let's bring it in. And I don't know why it did that, but there's some weird. So I'm just gonna hit the right arrow until that closes up, just like that. I'm not exactly sure why it did that, but it's some alignment issue somewhere along the way. Yeah, that's looking really good. All right, now that we have our heart shape, let's move on to our last shape. Now, I know what you're thinking. We just did 4 shapes. There's no last shape. That was the last shape. But what I want to do is I want to be able to go all the way back to the spade. So that way we create a loop, a seamless loop. Let's scroll down to our graphic layer. And it's already unlocked, so let's go ahead and slide that all the way over back to the spade. Now that we have our heart selected, which is this layer here, go forwards a few frames, right about there. This is going to become the point of the spade. That's going to slide all the way down. That's going to become our bottom of our spade. And then we want to boot that out, something like so. And then we're going to have our middle of our spade. Here. And then, you know what? Let me try something here, because I think what I want to do is I want to go back to this original shape. But if you remember on this original shape, I believe we had 1, 2, 3. Oh no, we do have, oh, wrong place. Here. If we double click on this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices, and then back at the heart layer, we have, double click on this, we have 1, 2, 3 vertices. We are missing a 4th one. Now we could go back in and just add one, hit G for the pen tool, and then see how it gives you that little plus icon. You could click anywhere and add a keyframe. Now, that I think will work, but where do we want to add that is the question. So let's go ahead and take that off. I think we want to add that. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters where we add that. So let's go ahead and add that keyframe. Now let's go back to this animation, grab all these keyframes, copy, and then we're going to paste them onto our heart. Hit U for keyframes. And then let's go ahead and get rid of just that one. Nope. Let's get rid of this one too. Let's select that and paste. Ah, beautiful. It worked. Okay, we don't need all these keyframes because that's just the animation that goes back to the diamond, right? So we don't need all those keyframes. The only keyframe we needed was go back to the spade. Now we could have just drew it out just like we did with all the other shapes, but the reason I wanted this particular keyframe is because now it goes exactly back to the very first keyframe, which is this, right? So in our loop animation, you're not going to see any weird glitch when it starts over. You're just going to see it go back to this animation. Now, you see that we have these funky Mickey Mouse ears going on, and that's because we have our circles here that we need to get rid of. So if you hit Option, close bracket, that's going to trim those layers to the playhead. So now you're not going to see them anymore. So it'll go from that shape to that shape. And again, you see that all the animation tends to go up, and the point of the spade is up, so naturally it feels like it all goes up. So we want to counterbalance that. We want to add a little anticipation. So we want this to go, you guessed it, down. So let's go ahead and select that keyframe, drag it down just a little bit, drag this down just a little bit, down. We want to make this a nice fat heart. Something like that. Let's grab this last keyframe. Let's go back into the graph editor, and I want to smooth that out just a little bit more, just to let it settle in there nice and slow. Let's maybe even move that out just a little bit. That looks very nice. So it feels a little funky because when it comes to the heart, it doesn't have a resting heart rate. It doesn't have a resting shape. So we want to copy and paste that keyframe. So that way it sits for the heart for a second before it starts animating again, right? Let's scoot those keyframes down a little bit so that way we give it a little bit more of a resting place, and then it'll go back to the spade. Now we're missing this bottom portion here. And if you remember back at the beginning, we have that bottom portion, and that's this guy here. Let's copy, go back to our animation, and then let's paste it here. Hit open bracket, and that'll shift the layer. It won't trim it, right? But if you just hit open bracket, that'll take it all the way back. That'll shift the beginning of that layer to the playhead. So that's where we want it to end. So if you hit U for your keyframes, so all we're looking for is that first keyframe, and then we can get rid of all these keyframes. And now that it comes back up like this, should we go with the, should we just redo this animation? We could redo this animation. Or we could try something different here. Yeah, let's try something different. Why not? Let's get crazy. So we have our ending path keyframe. Now we want to do our beginning path keyframe. So what I want to do is I want to actually shape this like an arrow. I want it to come in from the bottom and then just settle into place. So let's turn this back to a regular keyframe, and the way I did that is I just held down Command and click on the keyframe. It'll cycle through a hold keyframe, a regular keyframe, and a Bezier keyframe. So we want to just have a regular keyframe, and then once it lands there, we want to go back to the graph editor, and we want to make this as smooth as possible. So it's going to go fast and then slow way down into position. So let's take a look and see what that looks like. And I think I want that to come in right as it's settling into that spade. Maybe just forward a little bit. So let's copy, paste that. Let's make this yellow so we know that that's the right side. Toggle this down to the shape, the path. And this is where we want to click, Option click to create an expressions keyframe. And then we want to copy the path of bottom 5. Do that. Get rid of these keyframes because we don't need them. And then we also want to change the scale. So unlink the properties, hit -100 to mirror that. And now we have our arrow that goes right into place. Now that arrow is turning into that base way too soon. So let's make sure that this is an arrow. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Again, I want to do, here's another animation term for you. It's called the overshoot, where it goes past the point it's supposed to go and then settle into place. So you'll see what that looks like here. Now, let's zoom in so we can see what's going on here. Let's hit K for the previous keyframe. You'll see that we have a gap. So let's go ahead and close that gap. Okay, here we don't have a gap. Select that keyframe and then arrow over to the right until that gap is closed. And then K to go to the last keyframe, and that looks good. And then let's actually bring that whole animation further down the timeline. Maybe just a few frames here. That looks good. Whoop. Let's go zoom back out just so we see our whole animation. That's looking really good. So let's go to 9 seconds, hit N. That's going to trim our work area down to just 9 seconds so we don't have to deal with all this. Hit spacebar to preview your animation. And you will see everything that we've done up to this point. Now, I think all the animation looks really good. There's just a few little tweaks that I want to do here. Okay, one of the tweaks is when it poops this out, or when it drops that. I think that happens a little late. So let's just scoot that down a little bit, and then we're probably going to have to move these layers over to the beginning of that animation. Yeah, that looks better. So it does that. And then once it settles into its shape, I think it's not holding it enough. So let's just scoot that out a little bit, bring these out a little bit, and probably bring this one out. And I missed one. Let's just bump that up a layer just to keep it with its partner, left and right. And that heart animation, when it goes to that heart, that's really quick there. So let's just slow down that animation just a little bit. So let's just grab those keyframes. Let's grab all these keyframes. And then click and drag on the last one. That'll slow down the animation. And the reason we're having that weird glitchy effect is because our layers actually disappear before the animation is over. So let's drag those out. And that looks pretty good. Hit spacebar to preview that. And then that last animation is a little quick there. So let's hold that heart out just a little bit. If you hit J to go back to this keyframe, select this layer and that layer, and then hit Option, open bracket. That'll trim it down. That looks great. So let's hide our graphics layer just so we can see fully what's going on here with the animation. Hit spacebar to preview the animation. It'll do a drop there. Bump that out. Looks great. I think that diamond shape gets held a little bit too long. So let's go ahead and bring that animation forward a little bit. I think it's still held out just a little bit too long. Let's try that. Okay, now we don't want the spade to be sitting here for that long. So let's grab everything, Command A to select all your layers, and then just slide everything down. That way the animation starts sooner. So let's take a look here. It's going to come to the end. And when it comes to the end, let's give it about, we'll say 8 seconds here. Hit N. That'll trim your work area down to just those 8 seconds. And now when we preview this, we're going to see the full animation and the timing of it all, which looks great. As I'm looking at this animation, the anticipation here at the end looks really good, but I realized that we didn't really do any anticipation for the very first animation. So let's go back and just umph that up just even more. And again, you'll see that the animation wants to go up. So the anticipation would be the opposite way. So we'll go down with it. So here, on this keyframe. Let's go ahead and select the vertices. Let's push it down and maybe out a little bit. Let's push that down. And then now when it pops back up, I think we have a little bit of this overshoot going on, but I think we want to give it just a little bit more. Select this top vertice, hit shift to drag it up. And then let's take a look at that animation. So that looks great. That's amazing. You guys are amazing. All right, let's go ahead and select all your layers by hitting Command A, hit Command Shift C to pre-compose. Let's call this morph. Move all attributes into new composition, adjust composition duration, hit OK. So now we have this shape here. Let's go into your effects panel. Let's search for fill. Click and drag that onto your layer here. That's going to come in bright red. So let's go back to the beginning of the animation here. I think we want the color to be not quite black, but we want it to be dark gray. So hit OK. And then let's move the keyframe, or let's move the playhead forward to where that shifts into the diamond. And then let's zoom in a little bit here. Let's hit the stopwatch for the color. Select your layer down here and hit U. Let's move that down a few keyframes and then select the color. And then let's bring that, let's make that a nice deep red. Now we're going to copy those two keyframes because we want to change the color about here when it goes back to black. And then again here where it turns into a club. And then one more time when it turns into a heart. And then lastly, when it turns back into the spade. So all I did was just paste those keyframes. So I copied the first one and then just pasted those. Now you'll notice that it's weird because it goes black to red and then it's slowly going back to black. We don't want that. So we want to select these two keyframes, right click on them, go down to keyframe assistant and then time reverse keyframes. That's going to keep it red until it goes to black. And then that's going to remain black, 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 black until it goes to, oh, it looks like we don't need those keyframes. So it's going to stay black till it goes to the heart. And then that's going to remain red until it goes back to black. So again, select those two keyframes, right click on them, keyframe assistant, time reverse keyframes, and that's going to leave it red all the way back to the spade. So now if we hit spacebar, we'll see that we have our spade, diamond, clubs, hearts, and back to the spade. So if you double click on your composition here to go into it, in this composition, what I want to do is want to add a 3D camera. So go ahead and hit camera, set this to 35 and hit OK. And then we want to go back to the beginning of the animation, toggle down your transform, set a keyframe for point of interest and position. Now that we have our beginning animation, let's go ahead and set a middle animation here, and we're just going to rotate around this. And let's do something like that. And then when it gets back to the heart, we want to be back to the original starting position. So let's take a look and see what this does. That's getting there. So let's select all your keyframes, easy ease, by hitting F9, or you can right click on them, go down to keyframe assistant, go to easy ease, select all your keyframes, go to the graph editor, zoom in a little bit, and then select those keyframes and you're going to do this with them. And then you're going to do this with the beginning keyframe. So now your animation is going to go slow, speed up really fast, and then slow back down. And then we also want to do the same thing with the ending keyframes. And then we want to speed this up. So let's take a look. Okay, there you go, guys. That is how you morph from shape to shape using keyframes. Just like everything in After Effects, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I just showed you one way. Hopefully you come up with some fun animations. Drop a comment. Let me know what you want to see in future tutorials. Tell me if this was too fast, too slow, easy to follow, or you were completely lost. Let me know. Again, I'm Julio, your motion sidekick, here to help you on your motion side quests. Until next time, love you guys. Bye.